Tonight on Most Shocking, an officer confronts a nightmare scenario as a driver faces death head-on. Plus, a speeding fugitive turns his tailgate into a sparking guillotine. Then, a cabbie with a short temper threatens to turn the streets into a shooting gallery. And a red light runner flips a driver's commute upside down. Later, a desperate felon barrels down on police, forcing officers to open fire. This is not a movie. Everything you're about to see is real. Brace yourself. This is Most Shocking. Dangerous Drivers.
Dooley County, Georgia. A pickup cruising unlit roads at 4:40 a.m. is a suspicious sight. And since it's also missing a tag light, Deputy Darby Colvin has fair reason to question the two men inside. That is, if the driver's willing to talk.
As I was getting out of the vehicle to approach the car, it then fled.
The truck rumbles through a grove of pine trees and out onto a dirt road. It's dangerous enough as is, but this truck is about to pose a hazard like none the deputy has seen before. The driver bounces back onto the main road.
That's when the tailgate came off, and it was holding on by one strap.
The giant sling blade shoots sparks as it sweeps the concrete.
Now, our main concern there was it either coming off and coming through our windshield or hitting oncoming traffic.
Suddenly, a chunk falls loose. Flying right past the cruiser. Then an approaching car has a near miss of its own. The officer's concerns have become frighteningly real.
And that's when we made the final decision to go ahead and try to knock the tailgate off.
Colvin speeds up for the unorthodox maneuver. But at the last second, the pickup cuts right and lands in a ditch. Colvin and his partner jump out, guns drawn, only to find the truck is now gunning for them.
Jones then shot the front tire out. Well, as it kept coming backwards toward me, I moved to the side and I shot the rear tire out. Well, they kept on going. They wasn't quitting, even for gunfire or nothing.
The suspects charged backwards at Colvin, then lurched forward again. But this time, their ride gets stuck. The officers approach the tinted side window.
Get out of the car!
With the passenger now in their sights, they order him out.
Get out of the car now!
Colvin heads around for the driver. There's just one problem.
He's not in the car. He's not standing outside the car. I look up under the truck, and there he is. He's done crawled up under the truck.
Both men are quickly taken into custody.
They were acting like idiots that night. I have no idea what was going through their mind. There's no excuse, no reason for putting somebody else's life at danger, and themselves and ours, because they were going to get caught.
Get out of the car now!
Lima, Peru. Tempers flare during rush hour traffic. When a taxi driver with a short fuse can't get around a news van, he pulls out a .38 caliber stop sign. The crew takes off with the crazed cabbie in hot pursuit. Moments later, the two parties get out of their cars and face off on a street corner. The taxi driver rushes the cameraman with both fists. Police try to keep them apart, but the cabbie is still fuming. He wings a rock at the camera right over the cop's head. Then makes a fast escape into the crowded Lima streets. Authorities fire pistols into the air to get him to stop. But heavy traffic halts the taxi moments later, allowing an officer to jump in and bring him back. The driver claims he did nothing wrong.
Es otro señor que los tres han bajado de aire, ¿sí o no? No, los tres han bajado de aire. No los acabo de hablar. No, por eso es su versión.
But the camera tells a different tale. It's the unblinking eye which proves that this hot-headed cabbie's last fare was a dangerous case of road rage. Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's pre-dawn and the streets are mostly empty. But on Hospital Row, the only two cars on the road are seconds away from converging. Hospital employee Anthony Jarasak is just a few feet from work when the reckless driver runs a red light, T-boning his Jeep at top speed and flipping it upside down. The out-of-control driver exits his car uninjured. But Anthony is pinned inside his Jeep, tangled and helpless.
I just started to panic. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I had to get out.
Fortunately, Anthony's medical center colleagues are there in less than a minute to pull him free.
They helped me crawl out of the Jeep, being transported 75 yards to the emergency department.
He escapes with minor injuries, and incredibly, the red light runner walks away with only a traffic ticket. Anthony is grateful his morning drive to the hospital didn't send him to the morgue.
It was extremely scary. I'm lucky to be here.
Clayton County, Georgia. A car full of young men tears through the city. Jason Hildebrandt was pulled over for driving erratically. But now he's taking officers Chris Williams and Blake Sheriff on a whiplash ride through suburban streets.
I was concerned because at the time I believed he was a DUI driver. So we're always concerned in those situations for the safety of everyone else.
Suddenly, the right side doors open. Hildebrandt's passengers are desperate to escape before his next turn kills them all. The driver barely slows down as his friends get thrown onto the blacktop, right in front of the cruiser.
Actually, I was a little scared that I was going to run over him. I actually had to maneuver my vehicle into a yard to go around him.
But it turns out, jumping from the car was the smartest move they could have made. Seconds later, officers trap Hildebrandt in a cul-de-sac driver turns his vehicle into a lethal weapon.
This is the first time I ever had one try to run us over. And he looks in the rearview mirror, sees me, and he backs up, coming straight at me.
He slams into Sheriff's cruiser. Then he aims for Officer Williams.
The decision to fire my weapon was instantaneous.
Three bullets pierced the windshield and the driver.
I definitely believe he was willing to kill me in order to get away.
Hildebrandt survives the takedown. He's convicted of aggravated assault on an officer and is now serving 7 years behind bars. Because when this dangerous driver decided to take the wheel, he nearly took a police officer's life.
Coming up, it's terror on two wheels as a street racer flies around turns and into the path of destruction. Plus, a wrong-way driver nearly comes to the end of his road. That's next on Most Shocking, Dangerous Drivers.
Alicante, Spain. Motorcycle enthusiasts turn the highway into their own personal playground. They weave dangerously through traffic, pushing their screaming bikes to nearly 100 miles an hour.
We challenge each other to see who could drive the fastest without falling and to see who could take the curve the fastest.
But when one rider twists back the throttle and drops to the ground, disaster. The driver can't hold the turn and skids out at breakneck speed right into an oncoming car. The bike is shredded in an explosion of glass and metal. People rush to help. But the damage is already done. One fellow rider is especially worried. The crashing motorcyclist is his own brother. He watches the horrific accident while fearing the worst.
When you see a friend fall, you cry because you don't know what could have happened. Unfortunately, we always have a friend that loses control and that comes close to losing his life.
But while the bike is totaled, the risk-taking biker will ride again. His leg was shattered, but will heal.
When you're falling and everything's happening so fast, you think of what you're about to hit. I saw the car and I saw that I hit it, but I did not find until later that I'd broken my leg.
He comes out of the harrowing incident with nothing more than a scar. A permanent reminder of the wild ride that was almost his last. San Antonio, Texas. A security camera monitors normal traffic at a filling station until a sedan tries to take a left into the driveway. The driver never saw the truck coming. With no time to brake, the pickup plows into the smaller car, flipping it upside down before skidding to a stop. Bystanders rush to help. Unfortunately, there's little they can do but wait for an ambulance to arrive. The victim is treated for his injuries in the hospital and will make a full recovery. When this motorist just wanted to fill up his tank, he ended up taking a turn for the worse. Greensboro, North Carolina. Sergeant Arthur Waddell normally patrols these streets on his own, but today he has company.
We were conducting a speed enforcement program in Randolph County, and I had a photographer from a local television station riding with me.
But the camera crew is going to get much more than they bargained for.
All of a sudden, I kind of look to my left and I'm seeing lights flashing and horns are sounding, and it just kind of took me by surprise. Was I really seeing what I was seeing?
A car charges down the highway, going the wrong direction.
I got one going north. It's on the wrong side of the road.
Going against traffic at over 50 miles an hour, the driver seems to be on a suicide run.
Get over, car, get over.
He barely avoids a big rig, only to find himself almost bumper to bumper with a speeding truck.
It's almost like as if a bull is charging and people just start diving out of the way. So they was just having to try and change lanes, run off to the road, pull off to the road, stop, do whatever they could.
It's a deadly predicament, and Officer Waddell still has no idea who's behind the wheel. But then he sees inside the cab, and his heart nearly stops.
This is an elderly person who has simply gone the wrong way and doesn't have a clue.
The patrolman does all he can to stop him.
And I felt like if I could just get his attention, if I could just get him to look at me, then all of a sudden it would dawn on this person, wait a minute, something's wrong here, and that he would stop. He never did.
And even worse, the median's guide wire keeps Waddell from getting close. It looks like the only way this car will come to a stop is in a deadly head-on collision. But when the sergeant crosses to the other side of the interstate, he gets a welcome surprise.
As I came across the median, I noticed there were 2 tractor-trailer trucks, so the road was completely blocked. And I'm thinking to myself, how lucky can you get?
Finally, this old-timer's highway escapade comes to an end. He put countless drivers in danger. Thankfully, his confusion didn't cost lives.
Coming up, 2 joyriding teens scoff at the law and get an 80-mile-an-hour attitude adjustment. Later, a man walks into traffic and gets slammed by a speeding car. That's straight ahead on Most Shocking Dangerous Drivers.
Morro Bay, California. Maria Faust and her mother-in-law, Amber, work the weekend shift at their family deli.
It was actually a really relaxing day. Saturdays start out a little bit slower, so we were just getting our work done, getting on top of things.
But while foot traffic is still light, outside traffic suddenly comes crashing in. In the blink of an eye, a rampaging car pulverizes the front of the shop. Appliances fly across the room like missiles. Maria runs for her life, missing death by seconds. When the dust settles, the women can hardly believe what happened.
In the noise and confusion, I was trying to put it together, what was happening, and your mind is just racing.
I just started shaking. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't move.
Amber quickly takes control. Maria rushes to help. and finally sees who's behind the wheel. A dazed elderly woman.
She has her head on the wheel. She has her hands on the wheel. She's trying to move, but she's not moving very much.
It turns out the driver accidentally stepped on the gas pedal instead of the brake. A mistake that could have been fatal.
We were actually very lucky that Maria didn't get injured because she was there about 3 seconds before the car hit.
And standing directly in the path of destruction. The close call still haunts her.
A couple weeks ago, somebody peeled out of the parking lot, and I just started backing up right away, even though it wasn't close to us, and shaking.
Amazingly, no one was seriously injured when a slip of the foot turned this family deli into a drive-thru. Istanbul, Turkey. A traffic camera records a pedestrian attempting to cross a 4-lane boulevard. He times his movement perfectly to avoid oncoming traffic. But when the man enters the home stretch, his timing couldn't be worse. A speeding car blindsides the man, flinging him through the air in a deadly cartwheel. He's thrown 75 feet down the road, then continues sliding across the asphalt. Onlookers are left reeling in horror. The victim suffers major injuries and will face a long recovery. He may have thought the coast was clear, but in a world of reckless drivers, it pays to take a second look. St. George, Utah. Sergeant Hobie Metz hurtles down the highway in pursuit of a terrifying duo. Inside the cab are 2 teens who just broke out of juvenile hall and stole a pickup truck. They're young, reckless, and out of control. Metz knows they have to be taken off the road.
They were quite confident that they could avoid or do anything they could to avoid apprehension from police officers.
The driver tries to shake his police tail by whipping through a construction zone. When the officer keeps pace, they let him know they're not about to stop. The wild juvies flirt with disaster at every turn. And they're about to make the highway their own personal dumping ground.
They started to throw things out of their pickup truck, anything that they could find.
As debris bombards his patrol car, Metz gets the call he's been waiting for. Seconds later, officers spring their trap. With the truck crippled, Metz closes in fast. But the driver still won't give an inch, even when his tires get tagged a 3rd time. But even though the pickup could spin out at any second, the passenger makes a show that he just doesn't care.
The right passenger actually put his arms behind the back of his head in a relaxing manner, as if he was enjoying the ride.
Metz has had enough.
He was very confident and cocky at this point, and it was like, bring it on. Whatever you want to do, bring it on.
But the juvies can't dodge trouble this long without it finally catching up to them. Betts tries to get into pit position. The suspect takes his eyes off the road.
When he looked up and seen where he was going, he overcorrected to the right and he actually pitted himself. There's no laughter on their face at this point.
The truck rumbles backward along the shoulder, then grinds to a halt.
They no longer displayed the taunting gestures that they had before. They were not happy.
These hell-raising teens acted like they were on a joyride. But when the ride got bumpy, they learned the hard way. There's no joy in running from the law.
Coming up, a hard-charging semi jackknifes into rescue crews. But first,
I'm not familiar with this area.
a lost driver gets stuck on some train tracks and gets slammed by an unstoppable force. That's next on Most Shocking Dangerous Drivers.
Greer, South Carolina. Sergeant Marcus O'Shields discovers a disoriented woman whose car is stuck on railroad tracks.
I'm not familiar with this area.
The frame of her vehicle was actually on the rail of the track, and her wheels were off the ground and could not get traction.
Unbelievably, the woman remains in her car, even with a speeding train quickly closing in.
The urgency increased, and we needed to get off the tracks fast.
As the locomotive barrels closer, O'Shields pulls the woman out.
I was trying to signal the train that the vehicle's on the tracks with my flashlight.
But there's no way to stop the chugging giant in time. O'Shields and the woman reach safety just seconds before the crash.
I have never personally seen a train collision. Very shocking. Approximately 60 miles an hour when it collided with the vehicle. All we could do was stand back and watch.
It takes 20 seconds for the massive juggernaut to come to a full stop. Backup arrives, and O'Shields radios in for the fire department.
1040, get FD. You got 1040, get FD.
Incredibly, the train is still on the tracks, with only minor damage. As for the car,
the only part of the vehicle that was not completely crushed was the engine compartment of the vehicle. The remainder of the car was just obliterated.
The woman is shaken, but grateful to be alive. O'Shields can only imagine what would have happened if he hadn't shown up when he did.
I would hope to think that she could have gotten out of the vehicle. If anybody had been in that vehicle, no one could have survived that collision.
Ferndale, Michigan. An officer spots a stolen car and decides to shadow the suspect. But suddenly the perp spots his tail and panics. He screeches around a street lamp, then blows through a red light and almost T-bones an SUV. But just when it looks like the frenzied driver is getting away, the car skids out of control and slams into a tree. The stolen sedan is now a mangled mass of smoking metal. The cop radios for backup. Officer Daniel Crane responds to the call.
The condition of the vehicle when I rolled up was grave. There's smoke, there's small fires under the engine, there's gasoline, fluid from the engine, all about the ground.
The driver is trapped in the twisted wreckage.
The suspect was pleading with us to help him and to remove him from that vehicle. He was indeed caught underneath the wheels and could not exit that vehicle.
At any second, it could explode into flames. The policemen have to move fast or watch the thief burn alive.
We were going to have to pull him from that vehicle one way, shape, or form. He was going to come out of that car.
Officer Crane sprays the fire while his partner yanks the suspect free.
There were some minor injuries to the suspect in extricating him out of that vehicle.
After saving the driver, the cops make a shocking discovery.
Quickly learned the suspect was only 16 years of age. At best, a very inexperienced driver at that age. We admonished him in his driving habits naturally, and hopefully he makes a different career choice in the future.
This teenage car thief learned his lesson when his flight from the law ended his criminal career and almost his life. Orlando, Florida. After a heavy rain, the interstate is littered with tow trucks and rescue workers. But while cleanup crews are busy removing one accident, another one is barreling their way. Without warning, a double tractor trailer rounds the bend too fast and jackknifes. It may look like it's skidding in slow motion, but it's really over 100,000 pounds of heavy metal closing in fast. The impact smashes the back of the engine and punches a hole in the semi's trailer. The rattled rescuers take a head count. Only one fireman sustains minor injuries. But it could have been much different when this truck driver took a fast turn toward catastrophe.
Coming up, an underground highway earns the nickname Tunnel of Death. And later, a reckless driver slams into a tree and gets trapped in a fiery wreck. When Most Shocking Dangerous Drivers returns.
Bucharest, Romania. Surveillance cameras record the distinct lack of activity at a local gas station. But then, a drunk driver takes a corner too quickly and skids off the road. He careens into the gas station, smashing through the front wall. The crash nearly gives the lone customer a heart attack and sends the clerk running for her life. The intoxicated motorist staggers out of the car to survey the destruction. He missed the gas pumps by inches. But that doesn't mean he's out of danger. Flames suddenly erupt under the vehicle's buckled hood. Thinking fast, the driver grabs an extinguisher from the trunk and douses the fire. No one is hurt, but the car and the gas station are a wreck. With one missed turn, this liquor-fueled rampage came to a sudden, smashing, and sobering end. Pensacola, Florida. Police pursue a suspected drunk driver. Officer Ozzie Teeters follows in the second squad car.
He was not staying on the road, and he started running up into some yards, and I believe he may have hit a couple of mailboxes. I was thinking to myself that this is going to get a little hairy.
The cops' fears become reality when suddenly the driver slams into a tree. The vehicle bursts into flames, and the suspect is slumped over unconscious. With no regard for his own safety, Officer Teeters races to the rescue.
So my main concern was definitely get him out before he died in flames.
They dragged the driver free with just moments to spare.
That was a little too close.
Incredibly, the man survives the fiery crash, thanks to the selfless bravery of Officer Teeters.
There was a person that was in danger of losing their life, and if it means that if I lose mine to save his, then I've done my job.
Moscow, Russia. In the dead of winter, the frigid waters of the Yaza River seep through its banks and onto the underground highway that runs beneath it. The dripping water freezes on the roadway, creating a layer of black ice. And the Lefortovo Tunnel becomes a 1.5 mile long death luge. Motorists driving too fast can't stop in time. Hard-braking buses careen out of control. And when the road brings commuters together, the results are disastrous. Road crews have barely enough time to clear one accident before the next one hits. The tunnel was built to provide a direct passage under the city. But given its deadly reputation, Russian drivers might be better off taking the scenic route.
Coming up, a terrifying scene unfolds on the interstate.
Oh, jeez.
As a sleeping woman barrels through traffic. Next on Most Shocking, Dangerous Drivers.
Denver, Colorado. Rush hour commuters watch in horror as the driver of a white SUV comes inches from slamming into them. For motorist Christian Pruitt and his wife, the only thing more terrifying than the swerving truck is who's behind the wheel.
Holy cow, this is scary.
When I first saw the SUV driving, I thought, okay, somebody must be on a cell phone or distracted with something. So I pulled out my video camera. When we pulled alongside of her, I couldn't believe it, but she was asleep.
But while she's catching Z's, other drivers face a waking nightmare.
This person's speed keeps dropping, accelerating, they swerve.
I could see that her hands were rested on the steering wheel, but she was laid back in her chair, head back against the headrest, as though she was taking a nap.
The woman's foot stays planted on the gas pedal, pushing her vehicle to speeds of over 70 miles an hour.
Now we're accelerating.
As she slumbers, she has no idea her SUV is now a rolling death trap.
driving got worse and worse. She would go 3/4 of the way into one lane, only to come back and go halfway into the other lane.
Pruitt decides it's time to call the police and get this dangerous dreamer off the road.
The car is a tan Toyota 4Runner. The way she keeps weaving into other people's lanes is definitely a hazard.
Christian knows if officers don't arrive soon, it might be too late.
Shoot, 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 shoot. Oh, jeez.
Without warning, the SUV cuts off 18 wheels of rumbling metal. Pruitt fears the woman may wake up to a fatality or never wake up at all.
My wife and I held our breaths. I thought, that's it, this is over. She is going to cause a wreck.
The truck driver breaks for his life. But thanks to his quick reaction, a catastrophic pileup is avoided. Moments later, a patrol car blares his sirens, and the woman is finally jolted from her sleep. Incredibly, her comatose hell run lasted over 35 miles through heavy rush hour traffic at speeds approaching triple digits, and she still made it out unscathed. The woman subsequently pleads guilty to reckless driving, and her next nap is behind bars.
When you get in your car, you never expect to see somebody falling asleep on the road. The most amazing and fortunate thing about this was that nobody got killed. Nobody even got a scratch or a dent or got hurt at all.
Shoot, 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 shoot.
Whether it's on 2 wheels or on 4, disaster can strike in the blink of an eye. And it's the same all over the world. Wherever there are roads, there are bound to be dangerous drivers.